Oh, yo, what up? So, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and give you this podcast list. Now, once again, just like the YouTube video, my podcast list is really, really diverse, and more of it is about politics and information and news and stuff like that than anything else. Because you know, it's important to have information. It's important to know what's going on around you. The major one is Last Podcast on the Left. Me and my best friend listen to that all the time. Literally, it's all the stuff that all that fringe stuff. It's information. It's stories about people. Weird stories about cryptos. If you don't know what cryptos are, it's like the Mothman and um, you know, stuff like that. The El Chupacabra, UFO stuff, just really really fringe stuff that a lot of people would just go what, and you wouldn't pay much attention to it. But like when you hear stories like that, it's too ridiculous for you not to laugh at it, or for you to even hear it. Stuff like that is good for me. Like it brings me back. Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, which is part of the Last Podcast Network, which still is Last Podcast on the Left. That's the political side of what they do. They talk about what's going on in the White House, what's going on in the government, um, what local elections is going on. As a matter of fact, the host Ben Kissel was running for city council in Brooklyn. It was BK for BK. Big ups to Ben Kissel, because that dude is like 6'7", and he's like this big, completely imposing big white guy, but he is the nicest, biggest white guy you'll ever meet. It's Ben Kissel, Marcus Parks, Mr. Fantasy, what's his name? Henry Zabrowski. Fun fact: his sister Jackie Zabrowski is hilarious. Her and Holden McNeely do another show. What is it called? Sex and Other Human Activities. That's on the Last Podcast Network. Those guys are cool. Then I've got all my NPR stuff. You've got All Things Considered, which is just the news reports every morning. NPR's up first. Brief news over the last 24 hours. Just real quick. New York Times, The Daily Podcast. Just breaks down everything into 30-minute sessions just to give you a little information. Ridiculous History. You'd be surprised at how many laws and just random crap people will just put out there. It's stuff that's just on the books that nobody cared about, just doesn't really exist, but these are still laws and stuff like that. Stuff you should know, which is almost like Ridiculous History, but it goes deeper into the history of stuff, like how the $2 bill got formed, or how certain laws played out and what you had to do again about them in the mid 80s, and not like the 1980s. I mean like the 1800s. What else you got? The Steven Universe podcast and the Squanch, the Rick and Morty podcast. I love Steven Universe. Show is dope as shit. I love Rick and Morty. That show is dope as shit. I'm waiting on those two to bring out a whole other season. I would find an Adventure Time podcast, but that show is just too deep. Let's see, what else I got? I got cults. Yes, I listen to a podcast about cults. Why? Because fringe religion is freaking hilarious. Crooked Conversations, which is more politics. Pod Save America, which is more politics. The Breakfast Club, which is just their morning segments, their actual radio segments every morning. Just shrunk down a little bit easier from, I don't know, say 3 or 4 hours down to about 2 hours without all the without the major music segments and the commercials on the radios. That's pretty cool. That's Sports Science Versus, where they just talk about all the pseudo-scientific stuff that you hear about. Um, the most interesting one I was listening to is what why it's not necessary for you to circum why it's not a big deal if you don't circumcise your child. Yes, that's weird, I know. But that's majorly it. There's a lot more podcasts I listen to, but these are the major ones that you'll always catch me listening to if you catch me listening to podcasts. But that's really about it. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Holla at your boy on Instagram. Also on Twitter, although you'll never see me posting that often, but I am on there. And you guys have a great day. Talk to you later.